Devils driving down all avenues to improve the team this year. The first stop is here. My guess is they step a little bit harder on the gas pedal as they have just under 24 hours to do this thing. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button because we're just hours away from this year's trade deadline. Devils, I expect to be active. They were today. Brian Dumoulin from the Anaheim Ducks coming over to New Jersey. Second round pick going back the other way. Devils have a few of those. They're okay giving that up. Bring in Brian Dumoulin. Not a ton of offense to him. Definitely more of a defensive defenseman. He's got 91 blocks this season. Definitely gets in front of pucks. That'll be something key for the Devils going down the road. Limiting chances from opponents because they were really good at that at points this year. He adds to that, just 16 points on the regular season, 2 goals. One of those goals actually coming last night. Maybe that was the tip of the iceberg for the Devils to go ahead and make this move. Look, when you look at this team and going out and getting a Brian Dumoulin, older player, he's been part of 2 Stanley Cup teams, was part of those teams when Fitzgerald was over there in Pittsburgh. You bring in Brian Dumoulin. Now, you look at this Devils defense right now. We know Siegenthaler's out for some time. We know Dougie Hamilton's out for some time. Is this a move that they made because of these defensive injuries? No. You didn't bring in Brian Dumoulin to replace Dougie Hamilton. Completely different players. This was a move that I feel like they had made up in their minds, or that they wanted to at least, look at. They went through with it. They go through with it. I don't believe that this is a move that they made because, they're trying to replace Dougie Hamilton. Okay, Brian Dumoulin isn't going to replace Dougie Hamilton. Brian Dumoulin isn't going to replace Jonas Siegenthaler. What Brian Dumoulin does do is he gives you options. You look at this defense right now. You have Simone Nemec and Seamus Casey in the lineup, 2 young defensemen. In previous years, young defensemen don't turn out well in the NHL playoffs. It's not a good mix. You don't have to go down that route. You have Brian Dumoulin now, Siegenthaler, Hamilton coming back. You don't have to go with your young defenseman in the playoffs. Another place you could look is the type of season Johnathan Kovacevic has had. Started out really good. Past 2 months, not been so good. Real problem in that Dallas game. He had the delay a game penalty and the icing with 14 seconds left. I won't get into too much of that because I know you guys don't want to talk about that. And quite frankly, I don't really either. But looking at this trade, you bring in another option on defense. You don't have to go into the playoffs with 2 young defensemen. Not a lot of experience. Still, gonna make some mistakes. Brian Dumoulin's gonna do a lot less of that. The experience is there. The mistakes, not as much. Maybe doesn't have that same upside, but here the Devils are saying, we'd rather have what we already know than potential upside. I mean, that's how this Fitzgerald and this management has kind of run this Devils defense. They want to know what they have. They're not so much into that upside, let's throw in the Mets, let's throw in Seamus Casey, and just hope for the upside to eventually come there. No, they want to take their time with them. This trade right here allows them to take their time. It allows them to go into the playoffs, kind of know what they already have, rather than a player who might make a mistake, but might give you a little bit extra offense, might give you that extra play that they want. They feel a little bit better with Brian Dumoulin. I think this trade gets made if Dougie Hamilton or Jonas Siegenthaler is still in the lineup. I think Tom Fitzgerald definitely wanted another defenseman. Now, is it the type of player that I would have traded for if I was Tom Fitzgerald? I don't think so, no. I would have went and I would have gotten someone with some offensive upside. I would have maybe gone a little bit cheaper with a Tony DeAngelo. You get the offense. This defense has not provided enough offense this season. You go get Tony DeAngelo, well, that gets a little bit fixed up. Now, like I said, a little bit more mistakes. Not the same type of player. For me, I would have taken the risk. I know Seamus Casey's added offense when in the lineup. They haven't gotten much offense from Hamilton or Hughes this season, or maybe not the offense that they were expecting from the two of them. I think that adding another offensive defenseman would have been a good help. Do I have a problem with this deal? Don't love giving up a second-round pick for a player like Brian Dumoulin, but all in all, I mean, I understand the thinking here from Tom Fitzgerald. He wants to have an option. He wants to know what he has on his team. He wants to know what he's going to get from them in the playoffs. He doesn't really feel comfortable going with two young defensemen. I don't see a problem with that. You know, like I said, in the past, younger defensemen in the playoffs don't turn out too well. Now you can go to the outlier and Cale Makar, who was very, very good. We all remember that 2019. He's the outlier for a reason. You know, that's the reason why he came onto the scene so quick, was because he comes into the playoffs and plays really well. That usually doesn't happen. And with Nemec struggling, Seamus Casey, you know, great offense, defensive game not completely there yet. This is the move that Fitzgerald felt comfortable in doing. I understand the thought process behind it. You know, giving up a second-round pick, you don't love that. But you have 3 of them. So I guess use them. You don't want to be picking 3 times in between picks 33 through 65. It doesn't make much sense for a contending team. You know, it doesn't really make a ton of sense for any team. But on the Devils' standpoint, you go out and you get a defenseman who you know what you're gonna get from him. You're not gonna get a ton of offense. You're gonna get some good defense. The shot volume's gonna go down a little bit for the opposing team. Those all sounds like good things to me. I mean, he is 33 years old, but he's shown this year in Anaheim he can still play 17 minutes a night. You know, that's kind of what you want. You don't want your 2 young defensemen in. Kovacevic has struggled. You want another option there. Devils, look, when they're playing their defensive game, they're a really effective team. They've been a really effective team this season. Kovacevic kind of fallen off a little bit. Jonas Siegenthaler gets hurt. All of a sudden, things change. I know a lot more with Brian Dumoulin than I did with Kovacevic coming into this season. You know, Kovacevic was a pleasant surprise, but it didn't completely work out for a full 82 games. Brian Dumoulin, you don't need to work out for 82 games. You need him to work out for the next 20 and then the playoffs. It's not 82. It's a little bit different. And I know a little bit more of what I'm going to get from him. So this gives the Devils another option. Now, I think there's a couple things with this trade. You go back and you look. So, like I said, you trade, you get another option. You have a ton of defensemen. You also have a ton of salary cap in an LTIR with Jack Hughes going off. Siegenthaler on there right now. We don't know about Hamilton, but from what it seems like, Hamilton is out for the year. And same with Siegenthaler. But you have a lot of LTIR. You go out and you get Brian Dumoulin, you add another defenseman to this team. You have assets. You have a former second overall pick on your defense. Go around, look at contending teams. For contending teams, players that are not in their lineup, not part of their lineup, nobody can throw out a Simone Nemec. There's not a single team that can throw out a Simone Nemec. There's not many contending teams with this type of salary cap situation as well. This opens up over the next, what are we at, like 22 hours? 22, 21 hours? This opens up the avenue to go ahead and trade a Simone Nemec for a top player. I've thrown it out before. I really would like Elias Pettersson. He's got terms still left on his contract. I still feel he's a 100-point player. He doesn't completely replace Jack Hughes, but production-wise, he can. In terms of points, assists, creativity, it's in the realm of a Jack Hughes. He's not going to be Jack Hughes. We need to come to terms with Jack Hughes. You know, we're not going to have Jack Hughes this year. There's no replacing a Jack Hughes. What you can do, though, is you can go replace that center duo that you'd be better than everyone else in the division at. You can go get Elias Pettersson, Nico, Hischier, and now you've got 2 centers who can produce offense, do produce offense, and are also very, very good defensively. You do both of those things, and what you would take up would be probably Simone Nemec and a little bit more. Now, I do it because he's got term. This isn't a rental. He's a young player. This feels like a type of trade that would work for the Devils in the long run. You know, you look at the Devils' defense. They have a lot of prospects. They already have a lot of NHL-ready defensemen who are playing in the NHL and are effective. They just signed Pesce to a long contract. Luke Hughes isn't going anywhere. Dougie Hamilton's still got a few years left on his deal. In terms of type of impact, the type of role that Simone Nemec would play, it just wouldn't be the same as having an Elias Pettersson, 180, 190-point player on your team. The impact just wouldn't be the same. And, you know, if for your for your defenseman who you want to play, you know, in your bottom pairing, maybe your second pairing, I'll pay a little bit less. Because if Simone Nemec comes out to be, you know, this star defenseman, he's going to ask for a lot of money eventually. I'll go pay for a little bit less money and bring in a 90-point player in Elias Pettersson. That I feel makes a lot more sense to me than, you know, trying to keep working with the Mets. Your top center goes out, your superstar center goes out, and now you have a huge hole. That thing that I keep talking about, having that elite center duo that another team in the division can compete with, you no longer have that advantage. And in the playoffs, it's a lot about who has more advantages. Well, the Devils don't have that anymore, and that was something that they had. So for me, this trade, what it opens up is it gives you flexibility with your defensemen. It puts players kind of on the block. We don't know who is on the block, but you all of a sudden have a lot more options. You have more options in the lineup. You have more options at the trade deadline, and it sets up for an interesting, I think I said 22 hours earlier. I'm going to stick with 22 hours. Sets up for an interesting 22 hours. I'm sure it'll even go past that. But trade deadline, look, Devils seem like they still want to go ahead and make a run at this thing. So go ahead. Go find a way to get that center figured out. Let me know what you guys think below. Let me know how you guys like the trade. Did you think a second-round pick was a little too much? Or did you kind of like Tom Fitzgerald being a little bit, on the offense here? And I think he'll continue to stay on the offense. All right, see you guys.